she made it to Fort Davidson and told the pioneers who lived there what had happened, and the next morning they came back and found his body. And that's a question into itself. How did they know where he was? How did they know where his body was? We don't know that. But they found his body. Immediately they dug a grave and buried him, and they carved an SD on the closest big tree they could find from where his body was. So it would be a sign to the other settlers coming in that that's where he had been buried. There was no such thing as grave markers back then. They might have stuck a rock in there or something like that. But even today, we don't know where he is. We don't know if this is if he's underneath this ground. He could be down here somewhere. We don't know. And I even talked to a guy who does ultrasounds, and he did a lot of ultrasounds for the big veteran cemetery in Washington, D.C. I spoke to him to ask him how much it would cost to bring his equipment up here and find out where Samuel Davidson is buried. We'll leave him alone. It was astronomical, something like $10,000 or some crazy number. But he said, "Oh yeah, I'll be happy to do that." Well, I bet so. For that price, I'd have come up here too. So we don't know where he's buried. We just know he's buried in the vicinity. Anyway, to finish the story, the men who had come up and found his body, buried him, put the SD initial on the grave. They went west and they found the part of the Cherokees, and the story goes by what I think is the best historian in western North Carolina, and certainly in fact in Buncombe County, is Foster A. Sondley. And Foster A. Sondley said they took their revenge. You can take that what you want. That could have meant they just took their pelts. I doubt it. And by the way, Foster A. Sondley, his full name is Foster Alexander Sondley. But anyway, that's just a side note.
That's a coincidence.
Yeah, how did I know that? So when the incident with the Indians happened, and the gentleman went back down to Fort Davidson, it was late in the fall and nobody came back that entire winter because it was so late that they couldn't plant crops. And back in those days, if you were not in agriculture, that's pretty much that and logging and some other, being a smith, that's about all you knew. There weren't that many jobs to have.